What are you doing to change your world today? Hey guys, it's Dan Greer with Forge coming at you today just to ask you one simple question. What are you doing today that's making a difference? What's the one thing that you're doing that makes the biggest difference in the world or that could make any difference at all in where you're going to? So I was at this conference last week and it was actually yesterday. I drove home from it yesterday. Feels like last week because I've been home for a day. Anyways, but I was at this conference and I was doing a talk on leadership, and it was all about the 5 key principles of leadership. And I absolutely had so much fun with this one. We went over a few things that were a little bit duplicate. I always talk about Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that kind of stuff. But really, we went over a few things that were duplicate, but not a lot, just from what I covered in the past with them. But one of the things that really hit me was I asked everybody, I said, what's one thing that you could do right now within your company? What's one thing that needs to be changed within your company? And there became all this murmur and all this chatter and all this blah, 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 and yada, yada. And it took me 5 minutes to calm them back down. I was like, take 3 minutes and talk about what's one thing that needs to change in your company today. What's one thing? And they talked about it because they were there was multiple people from each company at the table, and they all kind of talked about it, and they were all thinking about some of the stuff that needed to be changed. And I was like, okay, calm down. Got you guys here. Okay, come on back to me. Let's get this going. Let's figure out where we need to go next. And then I asked him one thing, and it was a very simple question. Okay. What's one thing you could do to help make that happen? And here's what happened. There was 8 people from one company at one table. And it was pretty cool to see all of them do this. I was like, what if you did, what are you going to do? What's the one thing you want to change within your company? Can I pick on you? And they're like, yeah, you can pick on us. Okay, what's the one thing you want to change in your company? And they're like, well, we have a problem with drivers speeding. Okay, that's one thing that probably should be changed. What's one thing you could do to change it? Right? What's one thing that you could do to change it? What are you going to do when you go home? And this guy goes, well, I'm going to remind everybody once a week about speeding. Okay, cool. That's good. And are you going to, lead by example? Yeah, I'm going to lead by example too. I'm not going to speed. Cool. Great. Now you're doing 2 things that are very simple. Okay, guy next to you, what are you going to do? Well, so I'm the safety guy, so I'm going to include it in our weekly topic. Once a month for the next year about speeding. And it's going to be part of what we talk about at our weekly tailgate meetings. And we're going to do this stuff. Cool. Guy next to you, what are you going to do? He was a foreman. He came up with something else he was going to do. Guy next to him, what are you going to do? He was another foreman. I'm going to do this. Guy next to him was just a laborer. And I said, what are you going to do? And he's like, well, when I'm riding with somebody and they're speeding, I'm going to be like, dude, what are you speeding for? We get paid by the hour, bro. Perfect. Right? Perfect. And so they went through, and all 8 people gave me one completely different thing that they were going to do. And I said, now here's what I want you to think about. How hard is it going to be for each of you to do this one thing? And they're like, well, it's pretty easy. My job's pretty easy. I'll be done with it by the end of the day. It's not a problem. It takes me less than 5 minutes a week to do my job for this one. Okay. That's amazing. And I love that. Now I want you to pause. What if you tried to fix the entire company's speeding problem by yourself all at once? Well, I'd be super overwhelmed. I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know where I was going. I wouldn't know anything about any of it. And I'd be so lost. And it'd be tough. And I was like, okay, I get it 100%. Right? So when we think about this, a lot of times, here's what happens. And I call it paralysis by analysis. But we don't think about what's one thing we could do. We think about, here's this giant problem. How do we solve it? Oh, I'll never be able to fix it. And so we never take the first step. And so as a leader, what I want you to do is I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about, how do I take the first step? And what's the first step I can take to make this happen? That's what I want you to think about. That's where I want you to go with that. You guys, that's all in my book, Grit, Grease, and Grace. You may not know this. I'm actually in the middle of writing my second book, which I'm not going to drop the title yet, but it's going to be super fun. And it's amazing. And it's all about motivation and moving and getting going and getting the right beliefs in your head and that kind of stuff. And it's going to be super cool. So Hope you guys pick up my copy of my first book, Grit, Grease, and Grace, Leadership Forged in the Trenches. And you guys, get out there, take one small step to improve one part of your life or one process or something today. Catch you guys later.